Hey guys, and welcome back to Grace of a Military Child and Life podcast. Life from the perspective of a military family member is way different than a civilian standpoint. Military children and family members give up their hopes and dreams to be able to stand by and support their service member, and it isn't an easy lifestyle for anyone to live. I hope that this podcast is able to help connect the military community and give others just a glimpse into what the military life is like from the perspective of spouses and children. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Grace of a Military Child and Life. Today, I am here with Army spouse, Emily. So welcome to the podcast, Emily. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for being here and, being willing to tell your story of being a military spouse and what kind of struggles and, good and everything in between you go through.
Oh, thank you for having me. I was so excited that you wanted to bring me onto your show. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. Start by telling me what it's like being a military spouse.
So I'm sure that definition varies for everyone. I am more of a seasoned spouse, I think, at this point, which is wild to say. It's been a long ride so far, but being a 10-year Army wife, I guess I'm part of, the seasoned spouse generation, but it is wonderful. It's filled with constant change and adventure, and opportunity is something that I really try to focus on, is like even telling our kids when we move. We have 3 children. Every time that we move, it's transition, yes. And with that comes a variety of different things, but it's always opportunity too. So like, yes, you made some of your best friends here, but you wouldn't have made them had we not left the last friends, and moving forward too. So I have a very optimistic mindset in this military life.
Yeah, you have to have that optimistic view, that glass, half full view, because if you look at it where the glass is half empty, then, even though it does suck sometimes and we go through hard things and trials, and like you were saying, kids leaving friends, but, you have so many more opportunities that you get with each day that goes by and each step that you take moving forward.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What kind of things, just jumping right into it, what kind of things have you done, throughout, your tenure of being a military spouse to help, cope with the different stress and, craziness that this life can bring?
Yeah. So, since I have been a spouse for 10 years, I've had almost every season, right? So we first got married. It was just my husband and I. I did actually have our Army ROTC experience too. So unlike some spouses, I did have a background in the Army life of my own personal experience. So I did know a lot of the lingo and kind of the vibe.
Which is the hardest thing to pick up on
so
some
hard.
days.
Yeah. So, I would enjoy honestly talking more to my husband's in field artillery. So, there's a lot more at that point. There was a lot more men in his field. Obviously now it's changed, right. But I would just love to talk the field talk, because then I was very freshly out of college as well. So I was like, oh yeah, I know about field training exercises.
I love that.
But then as we had our daughter, that season changed. So when I was single, my husband deployed almost immediately at his first duty station. And I just buried myself in my own hobbies and work, just to keep busy and, kind of keep time going. And then once we had our daughter, then she was kind of my focus and doing things to create community for her and for myself and kind of motherhood. And then trying to realize my own health was really important. And then the more kids we had and the more we moved and the older our kids got, my community became just as important as theirs. It's all the seasons.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why, once you hit, that 10-year mark, I don't necessarily even think that there's a specific time frame, where you hit that seasoned spouse, because you go through all the seasons. You've, experienced so much of what this military life has to offer. And, you're technically at the halfway point, who knows that halfway point may come further down the line too. If you extend beyond the 20 years, but still, you experience so much of what this military life is, the deployments, the moving, bringing kids into it, that, that's where that term seasoned spouse starts to come in. And, shows, hey, like these spouses know kind of what's going on and what's up. They've been through it.
Oh yeah. And that's not to diminish by any means, new spouses or
Right.
seasoned spouses. Like, my husband had 2 combat deployments back to back right when he got into the Army. And then other than, 3-month rotations or a month, TDYs here and there, he hasn't deployed since 2015, 2016. And now we're going to be heading back to like that same mission set again. And I'm like, ooh, 11 years and 10 years married, but 11 years together into this. I'm like, okay, batten down the hatches. Like we're going to be going back into this season kind of out of the grind too. So it is ever changing. You constantly are experiencing different things and different, even a deployment with 1 kid versus 3 kids, or, it definitely is. It's always a cycle. It'll always be different, but yeah.
Yeah. And, having, that time where you're not going through deployments constantly, it's different than going through deployments constantly. And so even though, you guys are seasoned spouses, there's so many things that come up where it's like, okay, this feels new, or this is new, or, we've been through this, but it's been a while. So, I think that there's a good balance between many military spouses where you rely on some of the newer ones and some of the older ones, and, some of those like mid-level or like mid-career spouses and things like that, it's a team effort throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you said that community is huge.
Yeah, community it's so important. It's been very important for me. And I know many of my friends. So I don't know if you want me to go into that.
Go for it.
So when I was a brand new military wife, my husband deployed and I was pregnant the whole first deployment. And I had my daughter about 16 days to be exact before he or after he got home.
Wow.
And so, the stress of the deployment, I had gained, obviously like pregnancy weight.
Mm-hmm.
And just for myself, I was kind of losing confidence and not feeling great. And I was very isolated. I did have a couple friends then, but I didn't have like a strong knit community per se. And so one of my friends was like, you need to come, get out of the house, especially when you have a new baby. It's really hard to get out of the house. And she's like, come to this mommy workout group. So I had gone to this workout group and found what I was looking for. I found, an outlet for stress relief. I had found community and friendships, and it was awesome. It was founded by non-military spouses. So more like a mommy group, which was great and kind of what I needed in that season. And then 3 months later, we moved to Fort Drum, New York, and there was nothing there. And it was a high deployment rotation climate. And so they were constantly leaving. And I knew what that community had done for me at Fort Knox, that I needed that there. I had a background in exercise science. I had a background in personal training. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start one.
Yeah.
But being a military spouse, I was like, I'm just going to start a workout group for military spouses. Our husbands are all deploying. The gym on post does not offer childcare. Childcare is super expensive, plus a gym membership. Like it just was not realistic. So I was like, I'm just going to start a place for women like me who have little kids or don't, to find a healthier outlet to, like, some other vices that people may have that when you go, a shopping addiction or whatever. But just a healthier outlet for those stresses of deployment and finding friendship and community. And so, in 2014, I started, back then it was Beauty Hunters. Then I changed it to Hit Fit, and now it's H6 Fitness, but my business.
Yeah. And it's so special to find, that community in one, duty station. You had mentioned Fort Knox, like in one space you find something, and then, you pick up and move to Fort Drum and there's nothing there. And you have to create those spaces and create those groups. And it's so hard sometimes for military spouses and even military kids, when I started this podcast, to say, hey, no, like there's a need for this, in this space. And even though, all my stuff is virtual, like that doesn't make a huge difference,
Yeah.
And so you say, hey, there's a need for this, like, let's find a way to fill it. And whether that be there's so many different things, out there, and you never know how you're helping the rest of your community.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it truly, like for me in particular, I was just like, I know that I'm looking for a place where I can make friends, that I can work out, that I could bring my baby, and that I could get like a little bit of exercise and movement and kind of feeling good after like the constant stress and worrying of a deployment. And so I was like, there has to be other women out there like me. And sure enough, 9 years later, I'm still going. So we started in person exclusively, and I was just at one base. Obviously, I was one person at Fort Drum. And then typical Army, we moved 18 months later to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. We were there for 9 months. I started a group there. 9 months later, left, went to Hawaii at Schofield Barracks for 3.5 years. I had my twins there. I started another of my workout group there. And then the pandemic hit. And I started going on Facebook Live and realized like, oh my goodness, every time that I have moved and had to be like, sorry, friends, I can send you workouts, virtually, or you can follow along for my next group, our posts, and I'll post the workouts. You can follow along that way. I realized, oh my goodness, there's this entire opportunity that I've been missing of being virtual and being able to continue both of our, like respectively, me keeping my clients and, my friends, relationships, but also their health and wellness too, and how easy it is for us to take this and move it with us. And for this group to be just as transient and flexible as we are. So like on-demand classes. Oh, I have a 3-month-old and they're homesick or whatever. I can't work out at my class time. So now I can watch an on-demand, or I can train with a different trainer, or my trainer just left and moved to Florida. Now I can still train with her no matter, or my best friend from class moved to Korea, and now her and I can hop on and take a virtual class together. And it's just like connecting and keeping that connection and community for military spouses rooted in your whole health and wellness. So it's like what we do.
Yeah, no. And it's so, COVID came, and as sucky as it is, there's so much good that has come out of it, especially technology wise, because Zoom was out there. My sister had been using Zoom, she said, prior to the pandemic, but nobody knew what Zoom was,
No.
You don't know what it is. And then all of a sudden, our lives are surrounded by Zoom.
I had known about it a little bit. And, I think the military at this point still was kind of barely using, Teams or whatever. But it was just this whole opportunity that I think globally we all realized, we can actually be connected more consistently with no barriers, Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, you can be in Hawaii, you can be in Florida, you could be in Korea, and all still take part and be in the same community, which is so special and so valuable because, you meet at, one specific duty station, you have your whole group of friends, and then literally you just all pick up and move. And most of the times you don't get to the same duty station ever again.
Yeah, it can definitely be very hard. And that's kind of one of our foundations is like having that connection community, being able to maintain it, because even if you're not, two of my girls here are going to be staying behind, and all of us, we're only here for the year for school. So we're moving on. And they'll thankfully have each other, but being able to stay connected and continue their health and wellness routine with me, even though now I'm going to be in New York, they can still train with me every morning. It's really an incredible blessing, but it's also so important for that stress relief and that kind of taking care of yourself. Exercise is such an incredible tool that is sometimes, can have a negative connotation, but when you're using it with like a whole health and a self-care mindset first of like, I'm going to go outside and walk for a couple minutes because the fresh air and the sunlight and nature makes me feel good. Or just like exercising and moving your body with friends feels good. Even if you don't have a specific goal, it's just more so to move. It's so important in this military life to have some sort of health routine and balance just for navigating the stressors of this life. There's so many. I actually made like an Instagram reel one time about it. Just like military life hitting you in the face, TDY, deployment. like anything in the world, PCS season, anything can throw a monkey wrench in your normalcy. And we all are so aware of it. But when you have like a really good structure and foundation, in regards to your health and wellness, but even just your whole life in general, it's what's so unique about military families and students, kids and spouses, is that like, we really are some of the coolest kids on the block. We are so dang transient and adaptable. And while super hard, for example, when the pandemic did hit, we were like, oh, the government's ruining your life.
No, no, exactly. Because, who knows? Like you were just saying, like everything slaps you in the face at the same time. And you're like, what do I do now? Like you have to figure it out.
You figure it out. And that's why I think military families and spouses are just so, so wonderful, and just, cut from a very special cloth of like, yes, this life does have its challenges. It is not perfect all the time. It's not easy all the time. But we continue to navigate that and support our service member, and find the optimistic side of it and continue on. And yeah.
Yeah. And it's something that, everyone needs. Everyone needs that sense of community. Everyone needs to have that, but everyone finds it in their own ways too, which is so special, because, something that works at one duty station is not going to work at the next one. And you have to figure out where that balance is and figure out how to navigate. And, we're all biased, but military families are seriously the best. And, military kids are the best. Military spouses are incredible. And, we are also resilient. BRAT is... some people have never heard of it before, but BRAT is the acronym for like brave, resilient, adaptive, and T is, everyone says it's a little different, but I always say it's tough or tenacious. Everyone says a little different, but either way, like we put that label on the kids, and sure, whatever context it has, whatever connotations, like negative and positive, whatever. But those are literally the defining characteristics of a military family in general.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And, I just love this military lifestyle, no matter what challenges may come. And it's so incredible seeing other military families and the way that they're giving back to military families, because that's where we're all rooted at.
Oh, yeah. I see a lot of companies try and penetrate our market, right? Like our military, how do we speak to military families? And I feel like some of the most successful companies that do work and support military families are that of families and veterans. We know our struggles. That's why I was saying, when I first started this, I did belong to a Mommy and Me workout group. And that was wonderful in a sense for that season. Mm-hmm. But overall, they didn't understand me. They didn't know how to support me as a military spouse or a military, family person, dependent. But because they didn't understand, like, oh, you're moving this summer, that's weird. Like, okay, bye, see you never. Whereas like for me, it's like, well, there's always a chance. And, I may only be here for 9 months, but I'm going to impact your life, and we're going to have a really strong connection, and we'll stay in touch on Facebook, and maybe we will connect or cross paths again. It's a small army.
Yeah, for real.
Or a friend of a friend will know somebody or whatever. So, I think it's just, you truly find such incredible opportunities out of all the hardships and the ebbs and flows of this life that really are shaping you as kids into incredible adults, right? You're going to be super flexible, which is an awesome attribute as a future employee, as a parent, as a student, going off to college or whatever. Adaptable, you can handle a lot, which, in the thick of it can be a little overwhelming. But all in all, you're like, you know what, this may I have a lot of exams due this week and I'm really stressed. But have you ever had to move to Korea with a 2 weeks notice and you had to leave your dog behind? And, it's not great. I hear it both ways. Some people love the word resilient in regards to their military kids, and some can't stand it as parents.
Right.
It's always heartbreaking for us to both the service member and the parent, the other parent. Sometimes it can be really tough to be like, I can't make it better. You're leaving your favorite teacher and I can't tell you that it's going to be okay and you'll see them again, because realistically you probably won't.
Yeah.
And that is like so hard. But at the same time, when you do make it through, when you do get to the other side, when you do get to your next duty station, or maybe 2 duty stations before it starts to feel like home again and you like find your groove or whatever, you can look back on that moment and be like, it really did make me stronger in that moment. Or this community that I have now is incredible. And I wouldn't have gotten to this community had I not left that community. So just always like looking for the bright side, using the tools that you are building on your own without you even knowing, just to creating such a cool life for yourself. I mean, truly, I believe that military families are in essentially all like entrepreneurs. If you think about it, the things that we create for ourselves constantly, we figure out our new favorite hair salon or nail salon. We figure out, how to get to and from school, or we find our new friends. Like, we are constantly creating things. And once you find your community, and sometimes you have to create your community, kind of like how I did, with my health and wellness community. It was like, I need this. I'm going to start it. I'm going to put the feelers out. Anybody else interested in these things? And they come to you. And sometimes it takes you kind of trying new things too. Like, we're going to be moving to New York, and I'm not a winter person, but I'm going to put it out there that I do want to try like snowboarding and skiing. And they do have snowboarding and skiing clubs up there. So I'll find a new community that I never would have been a part of had I not gone there and got to experience it. So
yeah, we're all, I love that you said that. We're all entrepreneurs. We're all, creating something. We have to constantly, creativity is such a good outlet for anything. So having that entrepreneur kind of mindset for us, we're constantly evolving, constantly changing. And, even to add to that, we're all like marketers,
Oh yeah.
Because we find something, we find that hair salon or that nail salon or whatever clubs, and we tell everyone about it, because we're like, we're all here for such a short period of time that we have to share all the resources, we can.
I had one girlfriend she's getting ready to come here to Fort Leavenworth next year. And she's like, I'm making a list of all the duty stations. Tell me your favorite of all this stuff. It doesn't matter what branch, just like, whatever. And I'm like, see, that's marketing. And I have a girlfriend who's driving from Fort Sill down to Fort Hood. And I was like, make sure you stop at the Pecan Lodge in Dallas, Fort Worth. It is awesome barbecue. Little
I love that.
Yeah.
We constantly like support each other. And, even going back to that entrepreneur, like, we all come back from different backgrounds, not everyone is a military kid turning into a military spouse. And so, but those kids who turn into spouses, we have so many resources that it's like, this is what got us through as military kids. Like, how can we use these same tools to get us through as a spouse? And then you coming in with a fitness background, and the exercise science and health and wellness, and saying, this is how I'm going to use what I have, because it's hard to get jobs as military spouses.
Oh, yeah.
And so saying, hey, this is what my background is. Here's how I'm going to, continue to help others.
Yeah. And that's actually part of my new business model. So I know we had spoke briefly before we started, but over the years, my business model had to, much like my life, had to shift and adapt. And in expanding in Hawaii was the longest I was there. So we were there 3.5 years, and I had built a huge community with 500 Facebook followers and 30 to 40 members of each one of my classes. And so leaving that community was really hard. But I instead took a client of mine that I had seen this incredible transformation. She always had kind of a knack for supporting and guiding and encouraging new members to our group. And I was like, I really believe that you could do this. And so from there, I just got her certified, turned her into our chapter holder in Hawaii. And then I moved to Oklahoma. And in Oklahoma, I started my certification process. And so now we offer career opportunities for military spouses to do the same. So I also have virtual trainers that I've hired. So I hire other trainers. But I also have my own assistant, and she does my editing of my videos and stuff. So something really important to me is also helping other military spouses learn how they can create their own transient business too. And so if anybody listening is interested in health and wellness industry, I'm happy to talk about that and opportunities that we have for hiring fellow military spouses for the health and fitness aspect. But I also have such a passion for entrepreneurship and being a military spouse owned business that I also do like business consultation too, because it is so hard to navigate all the barriers, and every base has such different, stipulations for how you can run your business or what you have to do. And then let's not even get into the legality or the taxes. There's so much, everything. There's so much for running a business. And especially as a military spouse, I'm sure the same as if you had a career on the other side, you would have to know these things as well. But, when we move, you can take your business with you and what that looks like. And
because, you can't necessarily, if you have an in-person, job and career at a duty station, you can't necessarily just pick it up and move it across either the country or the entire world with you.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are some opportunities where you can do that. And, to those spouses who are able to do that, like props to them, because I could not imagine, being a doctor in this lifestyle and moving and then having to get certified in another state and then, moving to another country and in the sense being jobless, because you can't, the education and training is so different. So being able to provide career opportunities for other military spouses who have an interest in it, it's so special. And that's why I love doing this podcast and sharing, so many other things that incredible spouses are doing out there and saying, hey, like, you're not the only one, either struggling through this, but here's more opportunities for you. And, just sharing that with the world is so incredible.
It is. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. What, so many different aspects, but how do you take that and how do you, implement that and show your kids like there's, going back to that opportunity of, even though we're moving, like there's still so many incredible things and you can, have that community that you built in one place, but you can also bring it with you.
Oh yeah. So I have always, my family has a lot of entrepreneurs in them. And so for me, it was kind of just very instinctual. Like there was never a reason I couldn't. I'm one of those, like, the answer will always be no if you don't ask or you don't try. And that goes back to so many things in my life that have happened, like sponsorships, or I had a video done by Quest Nutrition about me and my business. And that all happened from like talking to Quest and being like, hey, can you sponsor one of my races? But just having that, like, well, there's no hurt in trying. So I believe that taking that entrepreneurial spirit and showing my children that too, and taking them along the ride too. I've taken my daughter to business meetings before. I've taken her to fundraising events where I'm trying to sell my race. I host like an annual race, virtual race usually, but we donate typically back to the National Military Family Association, which plug to them as well. They're an incredible non-for-profit that supports military families, and they help with things like business expenses. If you are starting a business military spouse, they help with school scholarships and tons of things. Check them out. Sorry, side plug. But they're a wonderful community. But and help teaching her like, hey, we can do this. And that has then inspired her to I want to do a lemonade and cookie stand. I want to start a bee company and help bees. I want,
I love that. That's so sweet.
And just inspired by Hawaii, right? And the bees and all that out there. But it's very important, I think, for times in the easy times, but for you as a military child, as a military spouse, I am very big on gratitude and kind of self-reflection and daily journaling. We actually have like a journal for it. But the importance of kind of taking a second every day is what I do, but every couple days or every once in a while, or if you're kind of in the thick of it, of just realizing your daily gratitudes. And some of them come hand in hand with your hardships in this life. So yeah, it's really hard to move all the time, but I've also got to experience incredible places. I have these favorites in these random cities. Lawton, Oklahoma. I never in my wildest dreams would live in Lawton, Oklahoma. I wouldn't know my favorite, my favorite restaurant there had we not lived there. I wouldn't know, it's only a quick 3-hour drive down to Dallas. And I found the Pecan Lot, my favorite barbecue place, or a couple hours down to Waco or Austin, Texas. It is easy to only focus on kind of the hardships when you're in it, or when you're leaving and your whole world is being, ripped apart. But if you're in the thick of that, I just encourage you to kind of take a step back and find gratitude in your day, get outside and go for some exercise, find a friend, even though it may be tough that you're leaving that friend soon, but go for a walk, have a hug, maybe get a coffee or a lemonade or something. And then when you do get to your next duty station, just kind of make it your mission. Like there is probably somebody here who just lost their friend, who just moved away, or somebody coming in like me, who's going to be looking for their friendship and community, and kind of find the things that make you happy, find the things that you enjoy, and then find ways to share it and build your own community each time. And you'll be, unbreakable.
There you go. Yes.
Unbreakable in this life. I mean, it's been a wild ride, but it has, in the grand scheme, looking over it has been an awesome 11 years of this life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you really just answered it, but, expanding on that, what advice would you give to military spouses?
Yeah. So I would say making the time for yourself to enjoy your present moment where you are. Time can fly so fast. I know when I moved to Hawaii, 3 years, you're like, oh, that was the longest I've ever been at a duty station. And I was like, I got time, I'll kind of island see eventually. And next thing you know, you have your 9-month orders, you're leaving in 9 months and you're like, whoa, time has flown. So really kind of each duty station, make a list before you leave to have something to look forward to at that next duty station. Kind of like a wish list or a bucket list for the next duty station. If you have some time before you leave, make one for here to kind of help pass the time, but make those happy memories for both duty stations. Look for community, find your people. And if it doesn't happen right away, take a chance on something that might interest you, like a pottery class, a quilting class. My girlfriend just found like a new job and a full passion at a quilting store here. And she never would have thought she would be a quilter. And here she is. She's found her people. She is so happy. And now is working for the company. So take a chance on, if you're struggling to find your community, take a chance on so many of the opportunities and events and classes that are offered on post, and maybe find your person or your people. And if all else fails, start your own.
Absolutely. And where can people find you, and where can people connect with you?
Yeah. So h6fitness.com, the letter H, number 6, fitness.com. It stands for Household 6. If you're not familiar with that, it's kind of like a little haha to military spouses being like the commander of the house. So Household 6 Fitness, but h6fitness.com is our website. And then H6 Fitness is on Instagram. We actually are launching our YouTube channel officially June 1st. That'll also be on YouTube, H6 Fitness. Yeah. And then I'm personally H6 Emily. So if you want to connect with me, I keep toggling between private on my personal page and not. Just, I don't know, I get a lot of spammy stuff. So sometimes I just toggle back and forth between private. But if you request me, I will absolutely accept you, and would love to chat if you have questions, or if you just are looking for a virtual friend, or maybe if you're heading to Fort Drum, an in-person friend.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Emily, for taking the time out of your day to be on this podcast and share, so many incredible things.
Thank you for having me. It's been so fun.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Grace of a Military Child and Life. Make sure to set a reminder for every Tuesday to listen to a new episode. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Grace of a Military Child in Life. If you have any questions or want to be on the podcast, send a message to one of our social media platforms or email grace.of.a.military.child@gmail.com. See you next week.